Now we will see some practical examples, short ones. Like few of the examples, as I said, what are the different options in test plan? As you can see, these are the different options. Run thread group, run test tear down, and then we have functional test mode. So for load testing, functional test mode is not as important as others, so we can skip this part for this session. And after that, we will see how actually tear down works and what is setup thread group and how to run different thread groups parallelly and even sequentially also. And we will also see different kind of listeners which can be used during our load test. So moving ahead, this is our test plan. So first, let us see what are the different components we have in our test plan right now. So what I have done is there are basically four thread groups. One is of setup thread group, second is tear down thread group. Then we have two thread groups which will be used for our normal load testing. And these are the different kind of samples we are using. These are basically nothing but the Google and Yahoo home page which we will be using for our example. And one more thing, the view result tree. So first is how to run a thread group. So one thing you need to remember is whenever you want to actually run any part of your test plan which you don't want to run actually, sorry for the my bad. So what we can do over here is, so suppose we have four components over here and we just want to run the last one only. So you can actually disable the rest ones. So for disabling, what you can do is you just have to select all of those whichever you want to disable. Just right click and click on disable. There is other option like toggle. It means like if it is enabled, then clicking on toggle will be those components will be disabled and vice versa. So I am toggling all of the first three. So now we just have thread group 2 and request also I'm giving thread group 2 so that we will understand in view result tree which actually sampler has been called, which request has been called. So I'm running it. So first we will see what are the different options. So this is, we have kept it as blank and no variable has been defined over here. And apart from this, run thread group consecutively also unchecked because we have only one thread group enabled in this particular test plan. So there is no worries if we select it or deselect it. Just we can go ahead and run it. And second is run tear down thread group. Again, this will be only applicable when you have any tear down thread group in the test plan. We have tear down thread group in the test plan, but it is in disabled mode. So anyhow, it is not going to execute. So just that's why we have kept it unchecked over here. So now we will run it for one thread. Ramp up we kept as 1 second and loop count also 1. So it means it will run for one iteration for one user. So go to view result tree. This is your run button. Click on it and you will see the request has been called. So we will see what are the response we are getting. Okay. So this is my actual response what we are getting over here. And this is my request. Okay. We're getting a 200, that means okay, right? So there are different options we can check. So all those things will be related to what kind of output you want, and if you want to correlate a particular thing, then you can use these parts. If you select HTML, so by selecting HTML, you can see this is the Google page, which actually comes up when you hit www.google.com. So it will actually show you how actually your HTML page will look. It will not actually show you the whole HTML page, because any performance tool does not work on the browser level. It works on the protocol level. So to keep in mind, it will just show you the details about the browser, how it looks, but it will not actually render the whole page. So again, moving on. So if you want to run it for multiple times, first you should clear this one. You can select a particular view result tree or the component. Either you can select clear all if there are many there are number of listeners added, and if you want to clear all the data, just click on clear all, or else just select the listener which you want the data to be delete and just click on clear. So it will give you a blank page now. So moving ahead, so I am actually increasing the loop count, that is the iteration. So basically what it will do is it will iterate for 2 times. So we can see that after execution it should show 2 records. So I clicked on run first and second. So this is how it works. So depending upon the number of iteration, it will actually execute. So again, I am clearing this one. Now moving ahead. So this one is done, loop count. So if I want to run it for suppose 10 seconds or 20 seconds or maybe 1 hour, how can we do that? So first of all, we need to select this checkbox, which is forever, and then select scheduler so that it will enable the duration and the startup delay. What is duration is? Duration is the number of seconds you want this script to run. And startup delay is nothing but, so suppose here I have kept it as 2 seconds. So once we click run button, it will wait for 2 seconds, then it will start the actual execution. We will look into this example right now. So I'm going to the view result tree and clicking on start. Before going to start, just keep watching this timer. So it is now 00004. So now once we start, the first request which will be hit on the server will be after 2 seconds. See, we'll see that. I clicked on this. This is 2 seconds. So now there was a delay because it is actually taking time to get the data from the server. So whatever amount of time it is taking from the server to get the response plus the number of delay for your first hit. Okay, so now it executed for, sorry, yeah. So what we kept is in the previous example was that one iteration, sorry, one number of thread is 1, ramp up is again 1 second, and we executed for 10 seconds. So actual duration was 10 seconds. Now startup delay is 2 seconds. That's why the first hit went after 2 seconds. So now this is also clear. So moving ahead, so we will uncheck this one because we are going to see different example right now. So again I kept it as 1. Now we will add one more thread group right now. We'll see how it works in the view result tree. So I'm clearing up this one. So now if I hit, so the configuration for both of them are same. So I kept it 1 1 1 everything, and now if I run it, it should show me two requests, one from thread group 1 and another from thread group 2. So okay, now we will see actually if we want to. So now what is happening is this particular run thread group consecutively is unchecked. It means all the thread groups will be executing in parallel fashion right now. Okay, so if we will see that example, if we want to distinguish between these two different scenario, we want to increase the number of count. Okay, so for thread group 1 is 10, again thread group 2 also 10. So now total will be having 20 requests, and we will see how it goes. And just to keep it in mind that run thread group consecutively is unchecked, it means both of the requests will be running in parallel. So now I'm hitting start button. See, so both of the requests are going parallelly. Now 2, then 1, then again 1, 2. It is something like this. As both of the requests are different, so that's why the response time also might be different, and that's why you will see the first request was from thread group 2 and second was from thread group 1, again third was from thread group 1. So it totally depends upon the response time. Maybe the second one is not responding properly. So now we are seeing one of the failure also in one of the requests. So whenever you are getting 200 okay, it means it is passing and it is expected, and we'll see why it is failing. So we'll click on that. So there are some handshake kind of issue which is happening right now. It means there might be some, we are not going to drill down to this one because anything can go wrong right now. We are just checking for the examples. We are not actually doing the load test. So we will skip this part. So now this was in the parallel fashion. Both of them are running in parallel fashion. So keep it simple, and for the minimal time, we'll keep it as 5. Now what we will see is both the thread will be executing in sequential manner. So we'll see that difference. So now only thread group 1 will be executed 5 times, then thread group 2 will come into the play. Now thread group 2 will be starting. So as you can see that all the thread group 1 request has been actually hit on the server. Then after executing all the iteration of thread group 1, then only thread group 2 has been executed. So this is basically the difference what we are seeing because of this particular checkbox. Okay, so moving further, we will clear it again and we'll see what is tear down and setup thread group. So what is setup thread group is that if you want to execute a particular kind of prerequisite things before actual load test, we will put all those things in the setup thread group. And tear down is nothing but if you want to execute a particular script or a particular scenario post running your load test, then all those things will be put in tear down thread group. So it does not depend upon the actual sequence where you have kept tear down or setup. It will always will be running setup first, then the thread group 1, thread group 2, then only it will run for tear down. We will see this in particular example. So now I am keeping it as again, okay, let it be 5 and 5, or to make it minimal, make it 2, and again make it 2 this one also. So this is unchecked, it means it will be running in parallel. But keep in mind that always setup thread group will be running first. So I started the test. You will see which one will be going first. It is taking too much time, maybe we need to check why it is taking too much time. This is yahoo.co.in, but it is not actually able to hit. So might be some issues with the application itself. So what we'll do is we'll change the URL and we'll keep it again google.com. To distinguish, we have put the name as setup. Same for tear down also, we'll do the same. Is already google.com. This is also google.com. This is also google.com. Now we will run it for, again we'll see if the setup will be initiated or not. Yeah, see. So first setup, then thread group 1. Now thread group 2 is also executing now. Again, tear down. So it doesn't matter where you are keeping the tear down or setup, it will always will be in JMeter. Setup thing will be whatever requests are there in the setup thread group, it will be always executing first, then the actual load test, whichever you have kept in your thread groups, and then the last tear down will be executed. So this is the difference between thread groups, different kind of thread groups, that is setup, tear down, and it totally depends upon you how you are going to use it.
This conference will now be recorded.
So now moving ahead, we'll see the scope of actually listeners, how it works. So what I have done is I have kept one listener in the on the test plan. Now I'm going to give one more listener under a sampler. We'll see whether if it gets any data or not. So that we'll understand how the scoping of a particular listener works. So I'm hitting it once again. To make it short, we will just do it for one iteration for both thread group 1 and thread group 2. Now after hitting start, we'll see what we are getting in this particular result tree, and after that we'll be checking in the result tree which we have kept in the tear down one. Okay. Now see, in this view result tree, all four are actually visible, but in view result tree only the tier 1, sorry, my bad, tear down request is already there because of the scoping of the listener. So this is how actually you need to give the listener into your test. But it is actually advisable to not give any listeners because you should be executing your test in non-GUI mode. Okay. So just for debugging purpose, it is advisable to execute the test in the GUI mode. But for actual load test, we should always try to run on non-GUI mode. So we will see in the latter part of the tutorial how to execute a test using non-GUI mode. Okay, so moving ahead, I'm going to show few of the listeners which we can actually use during our load test for a short load test or something like that. So again, I am adding listener as this is actually widely used, that is aggregate report. So what I'll do is I'll run it for 10 seconds so that we'll get some more data. So I'm executing it, removing everything. I am actually disabling this part because we don't need it right now because we want to see only in the aggregate report. So now I have initiated the test. It will run for 10 seconds. So it is executing everything. Now see. So what is label is the request name which we have given. Then we have samples, that is the number or the count on for this particular request, how many times it has been executed. Then we have the average, that is the average response time. So for 5 different calls, the average response time is around 2251. It is in milliseconds, means it is 2.2 seconds. So median is 1.3 second, 90th percentile, 95th percentile. These are the details which you will be getting in during your aggregate report. You can actually save this part by giving a file path which will be either in the .jtl file, or you can also save it as a .csv file. It will contain the data which will be having different kind of values, such as what you can see on the screen. The same values will be in the file with comma delimited section. Yeah. So moving ahead, these are the different options. These are the basic of how to actually execute and what are the different options we can choose in a test plan, and how to use setup thread group, how to use tear down, what is the scope of a particular listener. So all those things we have covered in this particular session, and we will see different kind of things like how to correlate, how to parameterize, and we will also see how to record a particular flow in JMeter, and how to do parameterization from the external file, that is from the CSV, and how to use variables. These all sort of things we'll see in the latter part of the tutorial. So these are the different options we can choose, and coming to the different kind of options, such as if you want to check what are the other listeners we have, just right click on the test plan or any of the element of a test plan and go to thread group and listeners. If you want to select config element, so these are the different options you can actually check. So I have selected graph results, and we'll see what will happen if we run it on the graph results. See, it is a very short, the duration of the test is very short, that's why we are getting values in this fashion. If we want to actually see the average only, then so this is the maximum, that is 3.9, and it is ranging somewhere between 3 seconds or something. We'll check in the aggregate report. So it is average is around 2.2, and if you saw in the graph, it is somewhere here. So in this fashion, we can use different listeners for our test on the GUI mode. This is all about today's session. We'll move ahead and we'll dig deeper into the JMeter things, like how to actually record and how to use different kind of options, and how to use actually controllers, which are the very powerful component of JMeter, which actually will enhance your scripting things, and it will give you a lot of options to enhance your script depending upon your necessity. So thank you and thanks for joining.